have pleasure in introducing the next speaker. Dr. JPS is a senior consultant cardiologist and chairman and chief clinical and preventive cardiology. He's from Sri Gangaram Hospital, New Delhi, and he's the vice president of Delhi Cardiological Society of India. May I call Dr. JPS, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Chairperson. First of all, I am thankful to the organizer for inviting me to this Trainer conference to deliver this talk. In the next 20 minutes, I will be discussing with you the management of hypertension in diabetic population. See, if you see last 3 to 4 decades of the advancement in medical science, human being has been given another 10 years lifespan. And out of this 10 years, I'm very happy to say 7 years has been contributed by cardiology. If we go into more details, 50% is because of the lifestyle modification like exercise, diet, and tobacco cessation, and 40% by good drugs like antiplatelet, beta blocker, ACE inhibitor, RAS blockers, or statins. Diabetic drugs, probably we are not very sure. But only 10% had been contributed by CABG and PCI. And surprisingly, oncology has contributed very little. You look at the major issue has been that it is a risk factor control which has resulted in the reduction of the cardiovascular events and improving the lifespan of human being. And one of the most important risk factor has been blood pressure, which is rising rapidly, going to be 1.5 billion. Unfortunately, majority coming from the developing nation. If you look at the diabetes, the second important risk factor, which has been given a status of CHD risk equivalent, which has been recently challenged, probably looks like it is the long-standing diabetes, maybe 8 to 10 years old, probably they are equivalent to risk to cardiovascular disease. The new onset diabetes, probably we have to be more aggressive. They may not be equal to that. But if they both are combined in a patient, then it is a really lethal combination. Because one, it is rising. You can see 550 million and then 1.6 billion in hypertension. We know that it is around 15-20% of patient diabetes, they have hypertension, 75% patient diabetic, they have hypertension, and around 50-20% hypertensive patient are diabetic. And unfortunately, most of them are underdiagnosed and undertreated and not reaching the goal of blood pressure management, which has been suggested by various guidelines. Combination results in increased micro and macrovascular complication. And this is supported by the clinical study, like the HOT study, which shows that if the both are there, then the cardiovascular events goes to almost 1.5 times. Similarly, the CKD goes up along with the parallel to the cardiovascular disease and causes increased cardiovascular morbidity further in this combined group of people. And with this, I must say, the benefit of blood pressure control may be greater than strict glycemic control. And you know that it is the lipid management which is more important, hypertension is more important, tobacco cessation, and then comes the diabetic management. Modest control of diabetes probably is good enough in elderly and particularly long-standing hypertension. So the control of blood pressure in diabetes is really important along with lipid management. Now coming to the goal of managing blood pressure in diabetes and hypertensive patients, we have been waiting for almost a decade to know after the ATP3 and the JNC7. And suddenly within 6 months, we got 5 guidelines, the JNC8, the ACC, AHA, European Society of Guidelines, and then finally the American Diabetic Association guidelines. And not much of difference. What we have suggested, that the JNC7 suggestion of 130/80 has not been supported by randomized clinical trials. And for that reason, they have suggested to raise the blood pressure levels to a little higher, because this is based on the landmark ACCORD BP trial, where intensive BP management versus the standard control of blood pressure has resulted in the answer that the probably stricter control in long-standing diabetic population may not be useful, particularly in elderly population. And we have to be a little modest because we may cause more mortality if we be very strict, both for sugar as well as for the blood pressure. And based on this, the AC guidelines suggested to control the blood pressure to 140/85 as one of the diastolic blood pressure around 80 to 85, and suggested RAS blocker for proteinuria patients and avoid combination drugs, and also suggested to give another drug at the night time, because I will come to it in more detail. JNC has supported almost similar, the guidelines. Only thing is that in diabetic population, they have suggested that irrespective of the age, as you say, in the general adult population, more than 60 years, they suggested 150 by 90, whereas for diabetic and CKD, it is irrespective of age, keep BP less than 140, 90. They don't want to touch 80, 85. So this is the only difference. Whereas the diabetic, the ADA guidelines, they have suggested even going up to 130, 80 in certain group of population, those who are younger population, if they can be achieved without any treatment burden. And patient with diabetes should have diastolic around 80, 85. The ADA's further suggestion is that all the class of drugs can be used. The ROS blockers are preferred in presence of proteinuria, and whenever there is combination treatment has used, at least one of the drugs should be RAS blocker. But they have suggested that since the diabetic population, they are more non-dipper, then suggested to add another drug after dinner to take care of the non-dipping part. In pregnant patients, they are suggested to keep the pressure between 110 to 130 and between 65 to 80 for long-term maternal health and fetal growth in diabetic and hypertensive patients, and avoid RAS blockers. I think these things were all known to you. Now, coming to the management of hypertension in diabetic population, I'll go into a more practical approach. We learned that the lowering of blood pressure is designed to be difficult in diabetic population. It is because it is maintained by multiple pressure agents. It is designed to resist blood pressure because if redundancy of one system will activate the other system, and as the age advances, the structural changes, they start coming up. You can see here the three systems which are important, the sympathetic, renin, and sodium handling. These are three multifactorial origin. If you take the example, if you use only amlodipine or any diuretic to reduce the blood pressure as a monotherapy, it is bound to activate ROS system. So ROS blockade has become a foundation of modern combination treatment for the management of hypertension. And this is more so true for diabetic population. You can see here in diabetic population, the ROS activation is much higher to non-diabetic population. So it is very, very important to add that. We have a lot of clinical trials supporting the management of hypertension in diabetic population, but I'm not going to details because of lack of time, but I will share with you the ASCOT BPLA trial, where more than 19,000 patients with multiple risk factors, out of which 25% patients were diabetics, were compared with the older group of drugs like beta blocker and diuretic versus the ACE inhibitor and calcium channel blocker combination. In spite of similar reduction of blood pressure, what we found, there was further reduction in cardiovascular event in newer group of drugs like ACE inhibitor and calcium channel blockers. This is possibly explained by one of the mechanism has been that there is a central aortic pressure was reduced more in the ACE inhibitor, and the beta and calcium channel blocker, beta blocker was worst. If you look at the inter-observer and inter-visit blood pressure variability, as we can see in diabetes also, sugar variability was much more in beta blocker and diuretic group compared to ACE inhibitor group. And thirdly, the new onset of diabetes was significantly higher in beta blocker and diuretic group. So probably all 3-4 risk factor mechanisms has explained the reduction of cardiovascular events in this group. And based on this, the diabetic population was also studied, and we did not find any difference. The main results of the global trial versus the diabetic subpopulation trial of more than 5,000 patients was almost similar, 16 to 18% reduction in cardiovascular events. Now, based on this important landmark clinical trial, the British Hypertension Society and the NICE guidelines have suggested a very simple, which I particularly feel that is a very, very practical way of managing hypertension in clinical practice, which is now supported by JNC 8 also, that for younger population, you can start with a RAS blocker, and for elderly, you can start with calcium channel blocker. If the BP is not controlled, you can combine them. If it's still not controlled, you can add diuretic. If still not controlled, you can add alpha blocker. And beta blockers' place has gone down, in particularly for uncomplicated hypertensive patients. And we know that to control blood pressure, in majority of the patient, you need more than two drugs. And this is very important because the fixed dose combination and the combined drug therapy has advantage of improving the compliance. Its efficacy increases, the complementary mechanism helps each other, and there is a prompt achievement of blood pressure goal, which is very much desirable in clinical practice. And they have more longer duration of action. At the same time, it reduces the side effects and cost of the drug. So all factors probably favors to use a combined group of drugs for the management. The combination of which is favorable now is the diuretics with the ACE inhibitor or ARBs, or with calcium channel blockers. Avoid ACE and ARB together. Now, key question, when the patient comes to you in clinical practice with hypertension, which is an uncomplicated patient, does not have any vascular disease, how to select a drug, either ACE inhibitor or ARB, particularly for younger population, which do see in clinical practice, less than 60 or 55 years of age. As we know that the ARBs have been tried in various situations for hypertension, for high-risk population, for even heart failure and sudden cardiac death situation. The cardiovascular continuum, compared to ACE inhibitor, ARBs have almost achieved the same phenomena, same results. So they have almost achieved the almost same status. So ARBs are as good as ACE inhibitor, but ARBs are better tolerated and have a longer duration of action and possibly more effective compared to ACE inhibitor, and there is no difference in cost in our country. Based on this, my preference will be to use ARB because our younger population has to take a drug for a longer period of time. If you look at the adherence to the drugs, then you can see here the ARBs are the best, even better than the ACE inhibitor in prolonged management, whereas the beta blocker and diuretics, as the age advances, they stop the drug because of the side effects. Look at the various drugs which have been ARBs, which have been tried in various clinical trials and found to be very effective in reducing blood pressure. Telmisartan has an advantage because of long actions and lipophilicity. Probably it has got some p-per gamma activity at a higher doses. But for a patient who has a complicated hypertension, who comes to you in clinic with vascular disease like CAD, peripheral vascular disease or cerebrovascular disease, the choice I will like to give a drug is ACE inhibitor, not ARB. Now, but unfortunately, in spite of best efforts, around 15 to 20% of the patients with ACE inhibitors, they do not tolerate. So we have to choose then ARBs instead. Now, why the reason why we want to choose ACE inhibitor against the ARB? Because we know the endothelium of the coronary vasculature or any vasculature in the body has a regeneration and regeneration process, what we say apoptosis or regeneration process, which matches and that maintains the healthiness of the endothelium. Once there is a more apoptosis, it leads to more degeneration, endothelium loses its continuity and there sets the atherosclerosis and ACS. So you can see here, you can have small holes which are formed here with all the risk factors like smoking, hypertension, diabetes, stress level, everything, and that pushes the LDL into the subendothelial layer and causes the genesis of atherosclerosis. So this is the mechanism by which atherosclerosis occurs. So the risk factor is LDL, whereas the other risk factors, they make the endothelium unhealthy and pushes the LDL inside. Now what we have found that ACE inhibitors, they have more effect on the angiotensin 2. They reduces angiotensin 2 and TNF alpha, which is both of them are pro-apoptotic. At the same time, they enhance bradykinin levels more. That's the reason why cough is a more side effect, which is anti-apoptotic. So they maintain the healthiness of the endothelium much more compared to that of ARBs, because ARBs have little less effect on the bradykinin and do not reduce endothelial apoptosis to the same extent. So this has been supported by the meta-regression analysis which we have seen comparing the ACE inhibitor and ARBs. We found the stroke and heart failure are almost similar, where if you look at the CHD, it is better protected by ACE inhibitor compared to that of ARB. That does not mean that ARB causes more CAD. What the protection of the ARB is slightly more in ACE inhibitor compared to ARB, because many clinical trials of ARB are available, where like Valiant study, Optimal study, where ARBs have shown a reduction of cardiovascular even in the presence of CAD patients. So that should not be a wrong message. So the only thing is protection is probably more. Now, if the BP is not controlled, as it will be there in more than 50% of the patient, we have to use a calcium channel blocker. Now, which calcium channel blocker? I would like to add amlodipine, because this has been supported by various clinical trials like PREVENT, CAMELOT, and more than 50,000 patients with ALANT study also, which reduces cardiovascular events significantly. And another thing, if you compare with all the calcium channel blocker, it has the longest half-life. And if you add with ARBs or ACE inhibitor, the side effect of the amlodipine, even at the dose of 10 milligram, which is a common side effect is pedal edema, is taken care of, because the mechanism which we know that if you use alone calcium channel blocker, there will be only the efferent wet vasoconstriction persist and causes the pedal edema persist, but at the same time ROS is activated. So if you add ACE inhibitor or ARB, then this afferent and efferent both arterioles are dilated, which leads to reduction in pedal edema and more prompt reduction in blood pressure. And that is one of the mechanisms that it becomes a very effective combination in clinical practice. The new group of drug like the 4th generation cilnidipine has come now. If you ask me, the other drug which we can use possibly is cilnidipine, because its added advantage that it acts not only in the L-type receptors like amlodipine, but it has also effect on the N-type of calcium channels, because their effect on the blood vessels, heart and kidney is profound. And if you use this group of drug, it blocks both the channels, and it has direct effect, like it, both afferent and efferent arteries are taken care of. There is more glomerular protection and reduction in proteinuria. So in the presence of diabetes with nephropathy, probably cilnidipine will have an edge over the amlodipine in the management of hypertension. So you can see that this drug has an added advantage, that it reduces the heart rate because it's acting at the sympathetic nerve end channels, and at the same time, it has improves the glomerular filtration rate and renal protection, reduces the proteinuria. So because of this multiple reasons, cilnidipine probably may have a role in managing hypertension. The BP is still not controlled. What to add? Then I have to add diuretic. Now, which diuretic? You see, 15 to 20% of the patient will be requiring 3 drugs combination to control the blood pressure in the presence of hypertension and diabetes, particularly in the presence of nephropathy. And we have also learned, if you increase or double the dose of, for example, telmisartan from 40 to 80 versus adding 40 milligram versus 12.5 milligram of diuretic, the efficacy is much more here compared to the doubling the doses. There are added advantages that it takes care of the non-dipping stage. The diabetic population, as we know, like CKD patients, smokers, they have non-dipping stage in night time. That means the blood pressure is not lower than between 10 to 20% reduction in blood pressure should be during sleeping period, which is not there in diabetic population, which results in increased cardiovascular events. The diuretics have a major role to make the non-dipper a dipper in the management. Now guys, the guidelines which they suggest various diuretic agents, they differ a little bit. The NICE guidelines suggest to use chlorthalidone and indapamide, and try to avoid hydrochlorothiazide. And this is based on the 3 important trials, Mr. Fit, Shep and Ehlert study, where they have found that the chlorthalidone on a smaller group of population, at least in the Mr. Fit study, they found that it was having a longer duration of action. You have to give once a daily. Night efficacy was better. Ambulatory blood pressure monitoring was also much better in this group of patients. And they found the effectiveness of the drug was possibly slightly more. Left ventricular hypertrophy was also reduced more compared to the 190 patients only, which were crossover in Mr. Fit study from hydrochlorothiazide to chlorthalidone. There was some reduction in cardiovascular events. So it looks theoretically the chlorthalidone is slightly superior to hydrochlorothiazide, but the guidelines which have recently published, JNC 8, do not favor that, because there is a many epidemiological study which says that both of the drugs probably are equally effective in larger number of population, chlorthalidone versus hydrochlorothiazide. This glycemia and this lipidemia is probably equal, and this electrolytemia is possibly equal between the group of drugs, only that the doses probably is there. So they suggest thiazide type of diuretics, so they do not differentiate between the two, but some of the guidelines do suggest to use chlorthalidone. Now a bit of elderly diabetic population, we have learned lowering blood pressure. Too much is worrisome in those with the CAD and stiff vessels, and the guidelines suggest that for elderly population more than 65 and less than 80, keep less than 140, but for elderly patient more than 80 years, 150 to 160 systolic. JNC suggests to keep keep the blood pressure systolic 150 and over 90. And any group of drug can be used, but preferably with the elderly population. We know the calcium channel blocker, RAS blocker, diuretic, a smaller dose. So start low and go slow approach should be there. But particularly in diabetic hypertensive patient, always look for postural hypertension, which is very, very important in this group of patients. Finally, is there any J-shaped hypothesis for diabetes and hypertension? The markedly low blood pressure versus moderate level, Accord study has already given us a lesson that please be careful in this group of population, those who are elderly and those who are having underlying CAD, and even Hayward study have shown that. So high risk population probably with CAD, diabetes and LVH, and elderly population probably we have to be little careful. And this is supported by various studies besides Accord, ENVA study, then the on-target study and value, and first subsequently by roadmap and Oscar study. Everyone we have found that be respectful to the patients, those who are elderly, those who are long-standing hypertension, those who have got underlying CAD. Try to reduce blood pressure more modestly. Don't be aggressive. Be aggressive in younger population only. So based on this, I think we have to be little careful. So to conclude my talk, the most patients with diabetes have hypertension, which is powerful predictor of cardiovascular events and requires an early diagnosis and early control. A large number of patients will require more than 2 drugs to control blood pressure in diabetics, particularly in the presence of CKD. available data do not show to reduce pressure less than 130/80. Combination of ARB and calcium channel blocker seems to be best tolerated, most effective, most protective, and preferred combination in patient with uncomplicated hypertension. But patient with complicated hypertension, CAD, heart failure, or stroke, or PVD will require ACE inhibitor as first line of drug because of better endothelial protection and probably reduction in cardiovascular events. But patients those who do not tolerate, we can use ARB. And it is time to rethink the value of lower blood pressure goals in patients with diabetes and CAD. Consider their individualized approach should be there in practice. Earlier the better, rather than lower the better should be the approach. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
It's an excellent message from Dr. JPS, mixing his own experience and also from the recommendations.